What's up, guys? Today we're doing chest and back. I already got everything set up. So this first exercise, let me show you first. So I've talked before, I really like cable flies. I do dumbbell flies as well, but I really like the cables to really pull out to the sides and pull that arm out so we can come across, not just back like with the dumbbells, but I do use dumbbells as well. So this one that we're doing today, I have this incline bench set up at a pretty steep incline here, and the handle's down low. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be coming here like this, about the bottom of the chest, about stomach level. So it's really gonna be more like a decline fly than an incline fly, even though I'm on the incline bench. If I was doing inclines, I'd put the bench all the way back and I'd be coming up here more for that upper chest. But today, I wanna focus a little bit more on the mid to lower part of the chest and really kind of carve out that lower part here. I've talked before, any bodybuilder that you follow is gonna tell you that inclines are the most important for building the upper chest. So I've done that for a long time in my career, and I've actually kind of overdeveloped the upper chest, which is rare, but it happens. So I'm trying to put a little bit more focus into the mid and the lower chest to kind of balance that out and get a little bit more thickness down low. We're gonna warm up. First set's gonna be light. Really focusing on that chest. So a big thing on here is we don't want to arch the back like this, particularly on this lower one. We want to have the abs tight, kind of pulling the ribs down so we can come in like this and really target that lower chest. Good stretch out. So when you come out, really think like you're reaching down towards the pulley here to get that pull out and then squeeze in. On this warm-up set, I'm not really counting reps. I'm just going until it gets a little burn, and that's about it. So nothing crazy, not a big burn. We're not trying to really work on this set. We're just doing something light, not super light, enough to make the muscle kind of wake up and work, but we're not trying to really stress the muscle just yet. So now we're gonna come over here and we're gonna do seated rows. So today I'm using this rope attachment. This one is really cool. It's like got this ergonomic grip, so it just really fits your hand. Just gives you a little better grip. And so the purpose of using this today is to not only get a really good stretch, but a good squeeze. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna really reach forward like this, and I'm gonna lean. I'm gonna kind of do this in two separate motions to show you, but we're doing it in one when we actually do it. So I'm gonna lean back to about neutral. I don't wanna come past neutral. So good stretch forward, up to neutral, and then I'm pulling the elbows back. So you really, really, really want to think elbows back, not shoulders back. It's a big mistake a lot of people make on rows, pull any kind of back exercise, is they want shoulders back, pushing that chest up, arching the back, and that's not the way the lats work. The lats attach to the spine. They come around the rib cage and attach here to this bone of the upper arm and pull that arm back. So when people are pulling the shoulders back, popping the chest out, it's like bending your spine and it's putting your ribs into a position where the lats can't really pull the way that they're supposed to. So the squeeze that you feel in your mid back and the lats is not actually a squeeze. You're just pinching and compressing. You want to keep the ribs down, abs tight, pull like this. You do that, you'll feel a lot more in your lats. I guarantee you. Before you tell me that I'm wrong, try it and you'll see. I was showing you in two motions just to kind of point out what's going on, but we're actually going to do it in one fluid motion. So good stretch forward to neutral, elbows back. And you see I'm getting a little bit of a twist with my hands. I'm not like thinking that, I'm just letting that happen naturally, the way my body wants to kind of pull that weight. When I do this stretch forward, what you want to make sure, and this again, this is something that a lot of people are going to tell me I'm wrong and I'm not, but what a lot of people want to do is I want to keep that chest up so you can see my back is arched, which we don't want. We want that back to round as you come forward, and then you're pulling back controlled, okay? So that's a big thing that people are going to say is a big no-no. Don't arch your back, don't do this and that, right? Your back is meant to move. It has more joints than any other part of your body. So your back is meant to flex, particularly bending forward, right? That's the way it naturally goes. Bending backwards, you can bend back, but that's not like the main purpose. So we want to get that good stretch forward, get a little bit of rounding here so we can stretch, and then we're controlled pulling back. We're not jerking, we don't want to injure anything. Good stretch, up to neutral, and engage the lats. That's going to strengthen that lower back. It's going to stretch and contract that lower back. It's going to put it through movement the way it's supposed to be so it stays healthy, strong, and mobile. If you keep your back stiff all the time, you're going to lose mobility. It becomes actually a lot more likely to get injured. All right, so now I'm going to do a set of calves. I like to throw a little bit of calf work in with chest and back just because it kind of fits. Like when I'm doing shoulders, you know, I'm always making sure I hit the mid delt, rear delt, front delt, traps, all that. So a lot more giant sets. Legs I hit calves with also, of course, because they're part of the legs. And then arms is just a lot more volume. So it's tough to add that in. But with chest and back, I'm just doing those two exercises. So I like to throw some calves in there just for a little extra work for the calf. So what we're doing today, or for this first one anyway, is a single leg calf raise on the leg press. And this has really become, I would say, my favorite calf exercise. It's not the only one that I do. You don't want to do just one. But it is my personal favorite because with that one leg, I just feel like I get more concentration, more isolation out of that one leg. So we want to get a good stretch. Keep that leg relatively straight. You don't need to necessarily lock out, but you don't want to be bending and bouncing too much. So kind of stabilize and then press. What I really want to do is I think about dropping my heel through, and I'm going to pull my heel towards my knee, right? So rather than thinking about pushing with the toes, I'm thinking more like pulling that heel back. You want to try to spread the toes out really wide so you get a good base on the ball of the feet. Good stretch. And I kind of want like an explosive push, almost like I'm jumping. The legs in general respond better to higher reps than, I mean, you still want to go heavy for the legs, you know, because they're big, strong muscles, but they actually do respond better to higher rep. And then particularly the calves respond really well to that because they're so used to walking and doing lots of work. So I do them single leg, and then I put both feet up there and just kind of rep out a little bit more. I mean, this is not heavy. It's not really going to do a ton of stimulation. They're a little bit pre-exhausted from, you know, doing those other reps singly. But this, I'm doing together. Basically, I'm just trying to force some blood in there, get a little bit more of a pump. So this one too, as I'm squeezing in, I'm getting a little bit of a twist with my wrist. And so what I like to think about is when I'm doing a most muscular. So when you're doing that most muscular, you kind of come in and through and kind of push the pecs up to get that definition through the middle. That's basically what I'm thinking on this one. Stretching out wide. And as I come up, I'm kind of scooping and twisting in a little bit. And what I'm thinking about too is I'm thinking like I'm trying to push myself back into this bench. So what I think about is kind of weird, but it makes sense, is being like a swimming pool. And if I'm trying to push myself back through the water like this, so big stretch, squeeze those arms and push back. So if you think push back, that's going to help pull the chest forward and get a better squeeze. Oh, fuck. I do a little bit of a pause at the bottom and then squeeze. Not a big one. I'm not really counting or anything. I'm just doing that little pause. And so that's another thing that a lot of people get kind of mixed around, is a lot of people like to do, particularly on something like cable flies, they like to do a pause at the top and squeeze because it's hard, you feel it burn, and so a lot of times people correlate that to that means it's working, it's doing something good, which it's not doing anything bad. But when you go to this full squeeze and just hold, like, it has benefits, but not a lot in terms of hypertrophy, of muscle growth. So holding that squeeze is expending a lot of energy for not a whole lot of benefit. Whereas if you hold a little pause at the bottom in that stretch position, putting a pause in a stretch position activates a lot more hypertrophy. It's also not as stressful on the nervous system where you're not going to expend as much energy holding at the bottom because you're not in a contracted position. So here it's squeeze, 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 energy is being expended, you're fatiguing, and so you're not getting the benefit, but you're making yourself more tired for more reps. Whereas you hold at the bottom, you're not really expending energy at that point, you're putting the muscle in more of a stretch, and then when you go to that next rep, you're going to activate a lot more. So put your pause at the bottom rather than the top. You do always want to be making progress. You do want progressive overload. You do want to get stronger. But it's not only about that. It's not only about the weight, right? So it's just a tool. So some days are going to be heavier. Some days are going to be lighter. I just want to make sure I'm stimulating the muscle in the best way possible. So if I'm more fatigued one day and I'm going a little bit lighter, that's okay, you know, and some days I'll feel good, I'll go heavier. So it's just kind of a day-to-day thing. That's why it's good to still track your progress anyway, even if you're not necessarily going up every single time, or if it's going back and down, you can start to see trends. So if you have a strong day, a not as strong day, and it's kind of going like this, and you see that wave kind of going up and down, but it's not like progressing up, then you can see that you might not be pushing enough. On some days you might not be recovering enough. That could be why you're tired, things like that. So it is going to go up and down, but you want to see it still trending this way. It's not going to be a linear straight progression like this. You're going to get stronger, weaker, depending, but you want to still be going in the right direction. All right, let's do this set. That felt pretty good. Probably go a little bit heavier in the next one. All right, let's go over here. Do another set of calves. So as I come down, you see I get a little bit of a bend in my knee and I push through. So I do have a little bit of knee movement, but what I want you to understand is it's very controlled. So when I drop my heel and I go into that stretch and I let my knee, watch my knee, it's going to come up a little bit. So the reason it's doing that is this calf, the calf muscle is going to attach down here and it's going to attach up in here. So when my ankle bends like this, it's going to pull this way. But when I let my knee come forward, it's going to stretch this way. So the trick of it is to allow that movement, but then when I come up and my knee goes back down, it's my calf kind of pulling my knee down rather than my quad pushing the knee down, right? So what I want you to understand is I could, if I was cheating, I can go like this. So right now, I'm kind of using the quad to push the knee down, create that momentum to get that weight moving. We don't want to do that. Versus here, where now it's all on the calf, you can see watching it doesn't really look any different. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I really want to explain that and point that out, is because you'll see a little bit of that knee moving. And it can look like cheating, but it's not. But if you don't understand the difference, it's really easy to actually cheat thinking you're doing the right thing. That's a big thing too. I talk about a lot of, you've probably heard me talk about it before, but I'll talk about it again because it's important. With your rest periods is making sure you rest long enough that you're actually fully recovered. And so I used to, especially when I was cutting, take short rest periods. I try to keep my rest periods to just a minute to keep the heart rate up, to burn more calories, burn more fat is the idea. And so that's true. You know, that is going to work that way. However, if you're not getting fully recovered in between sets, you're just going to progressively fatigue more and more throughout the workout. So then your performance is going to decline. So your heart rate's staying up and you're burning more calories that way, but your performance is declining. So you're in a way shooting yourself in the foot. You know what I'm saying? It's you're investing your focus in the less beneficial area. If you were to rest a little bit longer, say a minute and a half to 3 minutes even, be fully recovered, you're able to put more energy into that next set, so on throughout the rest of the workout with all of your sets. You may not burn as many calories during the workout itself, but you're going to burn a lot more overall because you're stressing the system more, you're activating more muscle fibers, you're moving more weight, right? The more weight you move, the more energy is expended, right? Think of like a car versus a truck. A big truck is going to burn a lot more gas because it has more weight to move than a small car. So the more weight you move in the gym, the more calories are expended as well. So that's another thing to think about. All right, last set. Whew, that was a good one. So this time, what I do sometimes, this little lean back to start is to get my hips kind of tucked under my body so my low back isn't arched. That's why I do that, just if you're wondering. It's a big stretch. All right, cool. Before you just discount what I'm saying with this lean and this neutral and not popping the chest, before you decide that's wrong without trying it, fucking go to the gym, try it, keep that chest forward, keep your back neutral, keep the shoulders where they're at, elbows back, not shoulders. Try it. I guarantee you, it'll only take you 1 to 3 reps before you go, oh, this is way better. Immediately. Like there's no question. Like you just do it and you'll see. Dude, that's the thing that is like somebody commented on that cardio video, like agreeing with me and being like, these people are retarded, like these other people. I was like, yeah, dude, it's fucking crazy. Like, I was like, if you read through these comments, every single person that tells me I'm wrong has not done what I'm saying. And every single person that has done what I said has said it's right. Every single fucking one. All of them. Just read the fucking comments. Like, but I still don't want to fucking listen. It's crazy to me that people would rather be right than better. It's fucking ridiculous. We're going to do incline dumbbell press today. I like to alternate with, like today we're going to do incline dumbbells and flat barbell press, and then next time we'll flip it and we'll do incline barbells and flat with the dumbbells. So with the dumbbells, it's one, having that stabilization is one part, but particularly on the incline, you can get a little bit more range of motion with the shoulders, and it's going to get a little bit more stretch and squeeze in the chest that way. But with the bar, you're going to get like a different kind of stretch where it really pulls across the chest with that bar connected. So it's just a different stimulus. Again, I wouldn't say one's better than the other. Personally, I prefer the incline barbell over the incline dumbbells, not because it's better. I just enjoy it more. It's just a personal preference, but it has nothing to do with the effectiveness of the exercise. But to that point, you can't always just do the fun set that you want to do. I don't dislike dumbbells at all, but barbell's just more fun, but we got to do both. So what you'll see on this one is as I come down, I'm letting my arms just move as naturally as possible. So as I come down, you can see here my hands are slightly rotated, right? And as I press, I'm going to come up. So I'm not like consciously thinking that. I'm not trying to tuck and flare and anything like that. I'm just letting my body move. So with a bar, that's not going to happen because you're locked in. So that's another part with the dumbbells versus the bar. It's a little bit different movement. So again, just different stimulus. All right, enough talking. Let's do this set. One other important thing to note on these dumbbell presses that I see a lot of people do, or that I even have a tendency to do myself, particularly if you're going heavy, is when you come down, it's very easy to want to keep those dumbbells like this over the shoulder to where I'm stacking over my bone structure. And that basically turns into like a close grip, and you're basically stacking the hand over the chest, and you're not getting that stretch in the chest. So we want to make sure that when you come down, that the dumbbells are actually traveling outside the chest and shoulder. Now, I don't mean you don't have to come crazy low. You want to go low and get a good stretch, but you don't want to go as low as possible to where you're putting that joint in a compromised position where you can get injured, okay? So make sure you get that stretch, but always keep the joints in a safe position. Get the fuck off my shoulder. This is what people do on these wide grip pull downs. They want to get this wide grip, put the chest up tall, arch the back, and pull like this. That's what people say. Arch your back, pull to your chest. Completely fucking wrong, okay? And here's why. Again, chest is up. You're arching that back. The lats come around the rib cage, they attach to the arm, and they pull that arm down and back. So when you arch the back like this, you're pushing the ribs forward in front of the shoulder, right? So now that arm cannot pull the lats the way they want to be. So when you're pulling this way, elbows out, pulling like this, you're working the teres minor, teres major underneath. And that's why you'll see people get real thick up top, and then they have no lower lats. When they do a lat spread, there's no thickness there. They just have up here, they have some erectors, and then their lats look like a fucking wet trash bag just stretched over fucking nothing, and it looks like absolute shit. So what you want to do, chest down, abs tight, you're gonna pull more towards the stomach, and you're gonna get a little bit of a lean back. So when people say leaning back is wrong, that's incorrect. They're fucking incorrect. Because it's still the back, right? It's still a rowing movement. So if I'm doing a row, right, if I'm doing a bent over row, my arms are here, I'm pulling like this. So if I was to stand up, right, now this is the same movement. So what does this do? It takes my arm and brings it all the way up here. So instead of just pulling here to here, I'm gonna pull all the way through like this. So it's still almost the same range of motion as a row, but because I'm sitting here, pulling from here back, it's a much more extended range of motion. So what we want to do, instead of being out here, we want to be up here where the bar is a little bit more straight. We're going to keep the elbows in, And we're gonna pull like this, right? We want the elbow staying close to the body through like this. I'm gonna get a little bit of a lean back, controlled. I'm not using momentum, and I'm gonna get a much better squeeze. So, sit down underneath, tuck the hips, up nice and tall, get that stretch, slight lean back, pulling more towards my stomach. I think I'm actually a little bit lighter on that one. But like I said, guys, try that, right? Before you discredit it, try it and see for yourself. This is a little trick that I use because I don't have a seated calf raise, in my home gym. So we use this lying leg curl, put some plates on the ground, put your knees under the pad and do seated calves here. So balls of the feet, lower the heels down towards the floor. And again, we're just thinking about lifting those heels. We're not thinking about pushing with the toes. We're thinking about lifting the heels. And I kind of think like I'm almost rolling onto the big toe a little bit. Good stretch. So these seated calf raises, that works the soleus. It's this under. So the main muscle of the calf, the bigger, well, what looks like the bigger muscle that we're used to seeing, that's the gastrocnemius. The soleus is down here, and it runs all the way up. It goes underneath this muscle here. So the soleus is actually the bigger muscle of the calf. This one looks like it because it's on the outside, and it is a big muscle. It stands out. So it looks bigger, but that soleus actually is bigger. You just don't see most of it, and it runs underneath. So that's a thing that, like, when I was first starting out, I neglected that a lot because I really wanted to build, the calf that stood out, and I just didn't do that much. And that actually fucks you in the long run because even though that muscle's not on the outside, that pushes that gastrocnemius out, and it makes that calf a lot more full. So even though it's not the standout muscle, if you don't have that, you're sacrificing a lot of size. This is the best part about having the home gym. Get to be with them the whole time. Huh, Dom? Domino's my daddy's girl. Yes. Yes, that's my girl. Yeah. So the other thing about these presses, really any kind of press, is what a lot of people do. I don't want to say it's wrong, right? Because it's not necessarily wrong, but it's just really easy to do it wrong if you do it this way. So what a lot of people do is they get under here and they just want to crank out reps real quick like that. And again, that's not necessarily wrong, but when you get too into the just go like that, particularly on compound exercises, you can miss a lot of stuff, right? So the way that I like to put it and the way that I like to think about it is we're not doing reps. We're doing one rep at a time perfectly, right? So when I get under here, I like to come down controlled, making sure I'm getting that good stretch, controlling where that weight goes so it's lined up properly, and then quick fire back up, right? So if I'm just trying to drop quick like this, my hands can be all over the place, particularly with dumbbells, right? So controlled, and when I'm controlling, I'm getting my arms into a perfect alignment. The forearm straight up and down, my elbows are in the right position, so I'm perfectly aligned to fire right back up the most optimally. If I drop down and my elbows come forward too much, then I have to do this. Like, you're unstable, you're fucking shit up, right? So control it, right? Think of yourself as a sculptor rather than like an athlete in this sense, right? I'm not saying that we're not athletes training like this, but instead of just like this, think of yourself more as you're carving that muscle, you're sculpting that muscle. So approach it more like an artist than a fucking barbarian. All right. All right, man. That's the problem I have a lot is I get too into the workout and I forget to drink water and then I get real thirsty and I go sit down and slam a bunch of water and then I'm like, oh fuck. So I'm telling you, but it's mostly right now to remind myself to pace yourself with the water. Come here. Give me hugs and kisses. That's my boy. Oh boy. Oh shit. Those fuckers burn. Holy moly. Before I load this all the way up, I want to show you guys something just light so I can kind of talk through it while I'm explaining it. And that's another thing is going to piss a whole bunch of people off, and a whole bunch of people are going to say I'm wrong because people teach the wrong information, and it's what it is, okay? So don't arch your back on the bench press. Now I know power lifters do that. I know that's a thing in powerlifting. I'm not saying that in itself is wrong for powerlifting if it's done correctly, under the right circumstances, for the right reasons, which we're not talking about powerlifting right now, so I'm going to leave that to the guys that are actually doing that. They know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about everybody else. So what I want you to understand is one of the important ways or important techniques to use with the bench press is leg drive, right? So just how, let me show you standing up first. Just how if I was doing like an overhead press, right? We can do a strict press, which is just no movement here, or we can do a push press, which is a little bit of a dip and push to get that momentum to go up, right? So you do the same thing with a bench press for maximum strength, right? So what you're gonna do is you're going to push the legs into the ground. Think like you're doing a leg extension, right? So the direction is you're pushing that way, right? Which is forcing energy back this way into the bar. Now what happens is if I get this big arch in my back like this and I push through the legs, that force, it doesn't want to come up, arch, and then back down. So you push, that force goes into the hips, and then you lose it right about the stomach, and you don't have that drive. So if I bring my hips up, set my hips down flat, sit up so my lower back is relatively flat, it doesn't have to be all the way perfectly flat. I'm going to contract my abs and push my belly button down into the bench. Now when I push through that legs, the force is going to come straight through to my arms where I can push up, right? So get under the bar. Now, as I come down to here, I'm going to push with the legs like I'm doing that leg extension. I'm going to push into the floor, and when I feel that force travel to my chest, then I'm going to drive up, all right? Down, drive up. So if you want to arch the back to get that shorter range of motion on like a max out bench for like a competition type of thing, maybe that makes sense. But in your everyday training, particularly if the goal is to build the chest, stop fucking arching the back. Listen to what I say and why I'm saying it, because it makes sense. Try it and you'll understand how that works better. Just stop just blindly following shit just because somebody said it, not understanding why you're doing something. Listen to new information. Think about it, whether it makes sense. Try it and see for yourself. We're going to load this the rest of the way up. So we're going to do flat bench. Trying to decide how I want to go with weight-wise today. So that's, again, like I was talking about earlier, guys, is it's not like you don't progress just straight like that. Like there's good days, there's bad days, higher energy days, low energy days, better focus days, less focus days. Like there's a number of factors that go into your performance. Diet, obviously, sleep, obviously. So like I said, especially where I'm at now, I'm just trying to get the best workout possible. I'm not necessarily, like I want to get stronger, I want to get bigger, all that kind of shit, right? Of course. But my focus is on my performance, right? So I kind of gauge how I'm doing today. Like today, I feel really good, but my strength just isn't there as much today as like I feel good. I don't feel weak by any means, but like I've had days where I'm just fucking dead. Like I didn't sleep that well. I may have not eaten as much the day before. I'm just fucking exhausted. And I really have to like drag myself through the workout. So I'll have days like that, and for whatever reason, I'll be strong as fuck on a day like that. And I'll just be moving weights I don't normally move, and it's easier. And I'm just like, dude, I don't know what the fuck's going on because I feel like shit, but I'm super, super strong. Whereas today, I feel real good, but shit's just not moving as well as it sometimes does, which is fine. I'm still feeling the muscle. My chest is pumped, feels really good. My back is doing good. Like everything's responding the way it should, and I feel great. So just because I'm not moving as much weight isn't necessarily a bad thing. So like that's a thing where people get fucked up as well, is they think progressive overload is the only way to progress. And if you're not adding weight, you're not making progress. It just doesn't fucking work that way, guys. Like seriously, if you just think things through, like do you honestly believe that if you go to the gym and you work really hard, even if it's not more weight than what you did the week before, do you think just nothing fucking happens, period, at all? No, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's the thing that you got to get over at some point, is there's this fucking culture on social media and everything today that's just like, I don't know, like a superiority complex, or people think that just better. Yes, we always want to improve, but like, you don't have to do more every single time or nothing happens. Like, it's just this all or nothing fucking thing that doesn't even make any sense. Like, I just don't understand why people think that way. And I'm not trying to discourage hard work at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, hard work is extremely important. What I'm saying is, like, be fucking smart and work with your body. Don't like force yourself into shit when it's not working. Like, do what's the most productive. I can't tell you how many people I've seen that are like, they're pushing it so much that they're deterring their progress, right? They're doing so much weight that their reps suck, so they're not really working the muscle properly. They're working out 6-7 days a week, 2 to 3 hours at a time, so they're not fucking recovering, so they're not growing. Like, that shit's sad, because these people are putting in massive effort for less benefit. Like, it doesn't fucking make any sense. And those people are so, it's so easy to get stuck in that, because what happens is, if you're working really, really, really hard, and honestly too hard, if you're working too hard and you're not getting the results that you could, you get discouraged. And then what that person thinks the answer is to work harder. So they do more, they get fucking less results, or they get hurt, which makes them set back. And then once they recover, now they come in, they're trying to make up for lost time, and they just wind up perpetuating the process. And it's very, very difficult to get that person, because I used to be that person. That's what I'm saying this from my own experience. I used to be that person. And it's very, very difficult to get that person to understand that if they take a little bit of a step back, they're actually going to progress more. And it's a mind fuck in the biggest way, because a lot of times you have to do lighter weight, you have to do less sets, you do less days in the gym, you're doing less of everything, which feels counterproductive at first. And it's really tough to wrap your mind around that. But if you can do that and then see the payoff, it's fucking crazy. I've made so much more progress in every single way by doing less work than what I used to do. It's crazy. So just food for thought. So what we're going to set up here, I'm going to do a bent over cable row, right? So this is an exercise I used to do. Whoa, fuck. Almost hit my head. This is an exercise I used to do a lot when I didn't have like a good way to do a seated cable row. And it's actually really cool. So this is especially good for people that have like low back issues, or you're dealing with something where like a traditional bent over row is going to put a lot of stress on that low back. That's not a bad thing, right? We want to do those. I'm saying if you have a problem, I'm not saying don't do bent over rows. I'm saying if you have some kind of back thing going on that at the time is not letting you do bent over rows, this bent over cable row is a good alternative to that, which doesn't put as much stress on the low back. But the reason I'm doing it today is, and I'll show you, it's just a different angle of pull. And then I'm also gonna add a little bit of a variation to this for myself to work on something I'm trying to correct. What I was talking about earlier in the workout about arching that back. So when people are doing rows and they're arching like this, popping that chest up, or pull down, pushing the chest up like that. That's the thing I did for a long time. And it got me, I can't really reach that well, but it got super tight through this mid part of my back, right? And so what that would do is those muscles would get tight and it would put me in this kind of a position all the time. And so a lot of times when people get that kind of distended stomach, there's other factors that can be involved in that. But for me, what it wasn't for a lot of people is when all this gets tight back here and it pulls the ribs down like this and lifts the front, it opens that core up to where your abs can't contract and hold your ribs where they're supposed to be. And then everything kind of pushes out like that. So that's why it's important to get the ribs down, squeeze the elbows back, not the shoulders back. So I think I'm actually gonna lighten this up a little bit to do this way now that I put that weight on. So just real quick, I'm gonna show you kind of what I'm talking about here before we actually do it. So normally this bent over row, you would get in this bent over position here, drop the hips, pull into the stomach like this. I'm gonna do things slightly differently today. I'm gonna stand a little bit closer. I'm still gonna lean in, but I'm gonna kind of stand up and pull like this. That's a little bit too close for me. So I'm gonna be here like this, right? So what I'm trying to do for me is I'm trying to train my body that as I come up, ribs stay down, not like this, because that's still something I'm trying to still work through. That's why, I share that with you, is a lot of stuff I share is, stuff that I've learned positively. There's also a lot of stuff I share with you guys that I did wrong over the years. So that's the thing that I think is very important to talk about, is the mistakes that we've made, because like I said, I've been doing this for 23 years. I've made plenty of mistakes in that time. So if I can recognize my own mistakes and what I could have done differently that would have progressed me farther before, and I can, teach you that now so that you don't have to go through that I did, you can avoid some of the problems that I have, right? So we're gonna do this first, flat bench. Then we're gonna do those bent over rows there, and a little bit more calves, and we'll be done. So yeah, same thing. When I get under the bar, I always kind of like to pull my knees back, lift my hips up so my hips can sit down nice and flat, and they're not in this arched position, compressing that low back. And so grip-wise, we always want to make sure that that bar is sitting low in the hand on top of these meaty parts of the palm right here. We don't want to be up in the fingers like this with the wrist bent. We want to be down here. And then we want to push through this part of the hand, right? So this bone on the outside is the ulna. That's the bigger, thicker bone of the arm. The radius is on the inside, and that's the bone that twists over. So as I rotate my wrist, this bone's going to roll over like this. So it's a smaller, weaker bone. So by putting that weight on the outside, it's just a much more stable place to grab. So then we want to take the shoulder blades and we want to tuck. Shoulder blades go down. So when we say shoulder blades down in relation to your body, not to the floor, right? So shoulder blades should go this way. What people want to do is they want to pull them this, like squeeze them together. Don't squeeze the shoulder blades together. Shoulder blades should actually be out wide, not pulled in. They should be wide and down, right? If they're out and high, that's when the arms are going to run into them. But if we tuck them under, so that's what I do is I take my arm, I bring my elbow in and like push that elbow up. That's going to tuck that shoulder blade down, just like this. Now I'm out. So here. So when we pick up the bar, we're going to flare the elbows out to pick up, and then we're going to pull forward. So push up and then forward. The way I'm doing these, where I'm stretching and kind of standing out, so I'm kind of turning into like a bent over upright row, which kind of doesn't make sense because those are two different fucking things. But the best way I can describe it, I'm in that bent over position and I'm kind of pulling up as I come back. And what I'm trying to do, keep the ribs down and pull back like this. So that's not like the way to do this exercise, right? Like correctly, the bent over row correctly would just be staying here, staying in that bent over position, pulling into the hips. That's what's going to work the lats, the best way. I'm doing this to correct a problem, right? So if you have that same problem where you have that rib flare like this and you're trying to get the ribs back, then this would be a good way to do this exercise to kind of correct that. So with this, I'm not trying to go heavy. I'm not really trying to strengthen or grow my back, so to speak. I mean, yes, that's what's going to happen. That's the overall goal. But as far as my focus in this set, it's not training really hard. It's perfect movement to correct the way my body's moving. Does that make sense? So we're going to grab here a little bit close. Find that position. Probably want the feet close. So I want to keep my back kind of in that arched position. So I'm getting that stretch, and I'm going to easy pull up and back. So this is one where I'm going very slow and controlled. Really just focus on the precision of that movement. And so I'm not going anywhere really close to failure. I'm just I just want perfect movement. And when it gets to the point where I'm having to really kind of like struggle to keep that movement perfect, then we're just going to end the set right there. Because like I said, this is just a correction exercise. It's not a growth exercise. So that's another thing that I want you to really wrap your mind around is not every exercise is about getting bigger and stronger, right? Some exercises are meant to improve movement patterns or correct imbalances, which are then going to allow you to put more into the exercises that are making you bigger and stronger. So generally we refer to that stuff as accessory movements, like in powerlifting, for instance, strength training versus bodybuilding. You have your your main lifts, your compound movements. So you'll have your main strength movements, bench press, squat, deadlift. And then you'll have accessory movements, which their purpose is to make your body do those other exercises better, right? So with these rows that I'm doing, so this exercise where it's not crazy heavy, it's not super intense, I'm not trying to really build my back with it, I'm just trying to correct that movement so that my back can move better on the exercises that I am using to grow with. Both legs for the calves. And so this, I'm going to go a little bit closer with my feet. When I was doing the single legs, I was a little bit wider. This one's going to be a little bit closer just to hit different. Sometimes I'll do the opposite. So my single legs might be closer. Both legs will be wider. So it just depends on the day. The same thing, we're keeping the legs straight-ish, a slight bend of the knee just to get that stretch, and then a controlled push-up. So one thing I'll talk about just while resting before this last set is tempo work. So like those ones, slow, control, and then faster on the way up. That's typically what I do. I don't do any kind of like set tempo. And like there's nothing, how do I put it? I wouldn't say that tempo is bad, like changing your tempo. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I feel like a lot of people put too much focus into the tempo and that takes away from the rest of the workout, right? So like what a big thing people will do is, I'm going to just use curls for example because it's easier to show you, is they want to go real slow. So slow up, slow down. And the idea is to make the weight feel as heavy as possible. And because you're making lightweight feel really hard, people think it's working better, right? So that's the thing is, there's a lot of misconception with, if it feels harder, that means it's better. And that's not true. Like when you're going really slow, like it's not bad, right? I'm not saying that, but like the reason it feels hard is because you're just making it hard. It's not hard because it's actually harder. It's harder because you're making your muscles not function the way they're supposed to, right? Is to move heavy weight, your muscles want to contract as many muscle fibers as they can as quickly as possible to get maximum recruitment to move that. So if you're going slow, 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 you're just recruiting a few muscle fibers at a time. So you're just making it work less efficiently. That's why it feels harder, is because you're just doing it less efficiently. So it's not like a beneficial thing. Now, there can be things to like a slow negative. Like there are advanced principles like that. So that's a whole nother thing to get into. I'd probably have to do a separate longer video all on that on its own, about how to use tempo correctly. But for most people, it's a waste. I don't want to say a waste of time, but lack for a better term, a waste of time. You're just not, you're making it harder for not a good benefit, right? It just doesn't, the reward doesn't pay off, if that makes sense. So what I say to do is just find the tempo where you feel the most connection, right? So you typically want to have a slow negative and then a fast contraction, right? But find the timing where you feel the best. You find the negative to where you feel a good stretch and the perfect activation, and then a good squeeze and contraction where you get the most recruitment out of the muscle. All right, last one. Today's just one of those days where I'm not as strong as typical, which, like, it can be hard sometimes to not get in your head about that. I definitely used to a lot more. If for whatever reason, one week I couldn't train as heavy, I would get all up in my head and that I wasn't making progress and this week is a waste and these are all the kinds of thoughts that would go on in my head. And fortunately, I've gotten past that and I've gotten smarter and understood that as long as the muscles are getting stimulated well, the muscles feel good, everything's responding well, I'm getting a good workout. So, like I said, today, for whatever reason, I'm not very strong, but I got a good pump. Feeling good activation. So, still a good productive workout. I just don't let it get in my head as much like I used to. But there's still days it happens. Sometimes it is a little bit harder to really get my focus as deep into the workout when I'm filming like this. So that's why the way I kind of do, my filming schedule with my workouts is, I do chest and back. That's my split. Chest and back, shoulders, legs, arms. So 4-day split, and we just do these. I film one workout a week, right? So today's chest and back. Next week we'll do shoulders. The following week we'll do legs. The following week we'll do arms. So that way I get to get out a different workout for you guys each week, but I'm not having to film every single workout, because if I had to do this every single workout, one, it takes longer to kind of talk in between. It takes longer to catch my breath after I've been talking, and it's harder to keep my focus as 100% on the workout when I'm also filming and talking and teaching and doing all this kind of stuff. So it's still a good workout. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's one of those. That's kind of why I do it that way. And then, like, my other content, it's just filmed on its own. It's not like part of the workout or anything like that. So, this kind of live full workout stuff, that's the reason why I do it that way. So those last little ones, they're like very small partials to where all I'm doing is trying to get the muscle to fire the right way and the other supporting muscles to stay holding my body the way it's supposed to be. So this is more, I would say, more about muscle signaling and getting the nervous system to fire correctly and recruit the right muscles in the right way than, really being heavy, strengthening any of that stuff. So it's just fine tuning that form. And so that's a part when we talk about training. And, like I said, I've been doing this since I was 16. I'm 39 now. So, this point in my life and my career, I'm about 250 pounds right now. It's the biggest I've ever been. I'm cutting right now. I'm not the leanest I've ever been, but I'm getting there. I'm pretty lean. I'm going to get a lot leaner. I'm not going to go all the way down to like contest lean or the leanest I've ever been, but I get pretty cut again. But at that 250 pounds, like it's pretty hard for me to put on more size right now, right? Because I'm pushing those boundaries. Well, one, I'm not natural, so there's that, But we're getting to that point where we're topping out things, and then I don't want to push that kind of stuff really too much anymore. At my age, it's more about the longevity and stuff like that. So at this point, I'm not necessarily trying to get bigger. I'm just trying to improve, right? So that's the thing, is we talk about like the evolution of your training. In the beginning, when you're starting out and you want to build muscle, get bigger, all right? You're getting bigger. Eventually, you're going to either top out your what you can do, whether you're natural or not, or you can either top out your natural ability. You can become enhanced if you want. Like, that's a whole nother thing. That's a personal choice. Like, that's a whole nother thing to get into. But we can only do that so long and so much too. You got to be safe and careful. So that's important as well. So there becomes a point where you're not necessarily training to get bigger anymore, right? You want to then transition your approach to detail work and fine tuning. So still train hard, but like for me, it's more about perfecting my movements, right? And correcting any kind of imbalances or any kind of problem areas or things like that. And I'm still going to improve, but that's more the focus is. The focus now is on perfection, not as much building mass, all right? All right, so we'll do one more set of calves real quick and we'll be done. Okay, all right. So that's it for chest and back today. Hopefully that was a good one. It wasn't like a crazy intense workout, but got to focus on a little more fine tuning things. So that's kind of helpful. That's why I like to take you guys through these kind of live workouts where I'm actually going through my own stuff and what works for me. You know, when I do my programs on like my app, for instance, you know, that's based, you know, for generally everybody particular goals, right? So I have my bodybuilding programs, I have my strength programs, I have my full body programs, all that, right? So everything's kind of put together to progress people generally in those areas. And so I, of course, you know, follow that stuff for the most part for myself, but, you know, I am going to make alterations to fit my personal body, my problem areas, any kind of injuries or something I may have, workarounds like that. So that's where, you know, when you follow me, you know, here on YouTube and watch my own workouts where I'm doing my stuff for me, that's why I like to kind of really point out the things I do. I don't want to say differently, because I would do the same thing for somebody else that had an issue, but when I'm not coaching people one-on-one, it's not like that. So that's why I like to kind of show these things where, like the last back exercise that I did, that's kind of a weird variation that I wouldn't program that version of the rows that I did into like a normal program, because it's not really for that. It's just fixing a problem. But that's why, you know, if somebody has that same problem that I did, the arch in the back, which a lot of fucking people do, that's a good way to fix it. So that's where I like to kind of throw these things in that are more personal to me. For those of you that, you know, have a similar experience or something like that, you can understand how to apply different things to yourself. So hopefully you enjoyed this one, learned some new things. I'll see you next time.